Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation of what's new in the Connect version 1.7. This is part 2 and we are taking a look at exactly what's new in the designer module, which is the one that received the most enhancements. So first off, we have enhancements in the email context. Now if you recall what this looks like in 1.6, at the top of the email context you have a box that shows you the subject and the to, and this has been remade to be a lot more useful. So this is the default that you get, and immediately if I go into preview mode, it shows that email preview, and it does that really well. However, there is a lot more to it than that. If you click on any of these fields right away from here, like without going in, in this menu here, if you click on that, for example, the CC, it immediately creates the script and open it up, and then I can select anything else as an email. Obviously, first name is not a valid email. I'm just showing you exactly what it does, and then when I go into preview mode, it shows me the information from that field. Obviously, I can go back in here and I can change, and that will also update. So it's a little easier to generate that script for any of these fields. The other one that's awesome is the subject field, which when I click on it, generates a script. Now you should probably not edit this one, just click on OK, and then the magic happens. If I go and type in hello first name, and I go into preview, then it immediately replaces the placeholder with the value from the field of that name. To simplify your life even further, you can actually drag and drop fields like this one into the subject field. Here's an important message. So it will mix and match regular fields with text straight off the bat, and that's awesome. So obviously this works for all. If I select another thing here and I do OK, it immediately shows it here. Now there's even shortcuts. If you click on the ones on the right here, any active script will have this icon. You can click on it and change it. So you don't even need to go inside the scripts pane. It just shows it to you right here. For you more technical minded, notice that the selector itself is a custom selector which can be used anywhere that these selectors can. So hint hint, wink wink, if you do custom scripts, that can be useful. Now the two next things that we want to see are in the File menu, and that is the Properties and the Export Report. Let's first take a look at Properties. Essentially, the Properties dialog is a way to give this document information, so metadata about the Connect Designer template. Anything I write here and then I carry over to a new computer, so I take the file, put it on a USB, or send it via email, put it on a CMS, whatever it is, all these informations will follow the template. Now, right now, this is the only place, except for the other feature I'll show you in a few seconds, it's the only place where these properties are shown. However, there are plans that these properties will eventually be added to the output PDF file. That's just not implemented yet, but eventually it will be in a future version. So that was properties. The other thing that's been added is the export report. So what this will do is it will generate an informational report about the template in either of these two formats, so PDF or XML. So let me choose PDF here just to show you in a more user-friendly fashion. And then there's a couple of options that you can select here in terms of the PDF options and etc. So what this will do by default is it'll show information from the current data mapper and template, but you can actually choose other ones. I don't have any other loaded right now, but I could actually generate a report for something else. You also have these options whether or not to show the section and the image resources inside the template report. When I click on Finish, I'm just going to override the existing PDF that I have here, And if I open this PDF, I can see, first of all, those same document or template properties that are right here. I can view, and there's a bunch of other things that are available. So the email context, what's the preview on that? What are the CSS that are used? Print section, all the print properties, sheet configuration, the backgrounds, the numbering, everything you need to know about that template is here. And at the very end, you have the data model and all the information on that specific data model. So why this template report? Why is that useful? Well, if, for example, you have a CMS system and you want to have information about every document or template that you put in, you have a versioning system, you have whatever, you want to send a bunch of templates, and all of these are completely different. You want people to have quick access to the information with or without the presence of designer or connector, anything on the system. You can send that PDF or that XML, which can be, processed by any system. That means that it's easy to know what's what on any template, without having to open Designer. And that's the main point of it, that and putting it in document management systems and etc. The next option that we have is the ability to add remote snippets. Now, previously, it was possible to add remote style sheets as well as remote JavaScripts. The ability to add HTML and JSON snippets means that you can capture information from not only inside the template or on a local drive or on a network drive, but also directly from the internet. And that is directly from, from the interface, that you don't need to write a script that does load JSON or load HTML anymore. It's straight up available from the UI. Now, as you can see, I have loaded an existing JSON file, which is from the local workflow host that's giving me back this JSON data. Now, this particular little file is just looking on a workflow that's on a different computer, for example. So this is on a completely different machine that's accessed through the HTTP, so through the web interface. And if I double click on it, I see the values. Now, these are read-only. I cannot delete, I can't modify these values because they are coming from the server. However, if I were to change the values, and I'm doing that on another screen, just saving that on the other computer and reopening it, then it updates. Which means that if I were to grab information from a web API or from any online web interface, then I would have access to it directly. I'll give you an example of, let's say, all right, so I'll give you an example of using this. Let me just close it. I want to grab users from an online system such as WordPress, such as a custom blog, such as whatever. I have a number of users that I can access. If I do this and I double click on it, then I have access to this right here. So this is information coming from a website on the internet, and I can use it. How do I use it? Well, because it is a snippet, it means that I could use it in a script. And for example, this would give me that user data coming from that remote JSON. Now, doing this for HTML is pretty much the same thing. If I do add a remote HTML snippet and I type in example.com, for example, then I have access to the HTML for that website. Now, I'm going to go in the source and show you that this does not include the header and the footer, which means it is only the actual content of that website. What does that mean? It means if I want to go inside a print section, for example, and I want to add this right here, I could add the HTML for the website. Now, obviously, this is not perfect in my case because I'm not overwriting any style sheets. It's just straight up outputting it here, and it's on a white background, so it's gonna show a little weirder. However, if you're capturing that HTML from a system that you created, such as WordPress, such as just an HTML as a static resource, as a CRM, as long as it's accessible from a URL, it'll be accessible here. There's only one caveat in regards to that, and that this is not a dynamic URL. You can't make it dynamic from the UI, which means that this is not something that you can do, oh, give me the information for this particular record. However, because it is only loaded once and is not loaded per record, it also means that it's much more efficient. If you're grabbing a list of information from JSON or from HTML and you want to actually use that in your document, it's going to load it only once, and then you have access to it in all the documents, which is actually pretty good. Now, these snippets are loaded before any of the scripts are run, meaning if you're loading a remote HTML snippet and you put it inside your HTML and there's any placeholders in there and you have the scripts related to those placeholders, that will work beautifully. So it is a very good feature for the distribution and versioning and editing of any resource that you might use in multiple documents, and you don't want to have to copy these snippets and this JSON data all the time. Now, the next bit is all about scripts and text and sources. So I'm going to go in the source view for the print template, and I'm going to show you what you can do here. First of all, super simple thing. When you have something that you want to copy multiple times, you have a piece of HTML, you have a table, you have a row, you have anything, Control-D will duplicate that line as many times as you want. So as I'm duplicating this, it's creating more and more paragraphs, which here are appearing at the top. And this also works within, any selection. The other thing that you can do is search and replace. If I do Control F, I have this dialog which gives you a whole bunch of options for searching and replacing. Now, the very simple thing that you can do is I can replace, let's say, BR with, closing and opening a link. Obviously, it's not super valid, but it does work. Now, I can do this within a selection. If I only want to replace these A brackets with a BR, I can do it here within selected lines, and that will only replace within the selection, which is actually pretty awesome. Now, there's a couple of options at the bottom. You can select case sensitive if you want to keep capitalization. You can also wrap search if you're doing one at a time, especially you might want to do that. So if I do a full scope and I do replace, and you want it to reach the bottom and go back to the top, etc. The last one is for all you regex nerds, people that know regular expression. You do have that option also. I'm not going to try to do live regex here. I just want you to know that this is available. And we even have, if you do Control Space, a little shortcut to a cheat sheet for all of these things in regex. That is actually pretty awesome. Now, here's one last thing that I want to show you. If I click on Open and I change the file name to All Files, any file that is essentially openable by designer will be available here. So I can open a JS file right here. So this is a JavaScript file that I can open, and this is not part of the template. So everything related to the template sort of disappears. However, I can still edit it. So I could go at the bottom here and I could, edit and then save this file and close it, and it would be saved outside. So it's a kind of a basic text editor for when you want to, change specific things. Now, before we move on to the biggest feature, I just want to let you know that there's a couple of more minor features, such as changing the color of guides and changing some spacing and changing some preferences. I don't want to cover these because it's a little bit tedious. There is a lot of minor changes. However, if you open your browser and you go under the online tutorials for your proper license, go under quick overviews, and then you take a look here. What's new in Planet Press Connect 1.7 will appear for you when this video is released. So you'll have a lot more information with screenshots of some of these more smaller features. And now comes the #1 big feature that has been changed in Connect Designer, and it's a sort of technical one. And it's regarding doing detailed tables that are nested. So if you're not doing multiple level detailed tables, and you're not into scripting, and you're not into any of this, you can skip to the next video about the output module while we continue here, and we'll see you in a few clicks. For those of you that are interested in this, let me open the file and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here what we have is a data mapping configuration that has multiple levels. So I have my normal record, and then I have the instrument class detail table, which is nested with the sector, which is nested with holding. Now, previously, what needed to be done in order to display this information in any sort of fashion was a bunch of scripts that would duplicate, that would reproduce or copy the HTML source, and then, generate a lot of HTML output. Now, if I go and drop down into the source code, what we have is simply this. This is all that's necessary to generate the HTML required for nested detail table. The magic happens when we look at specifically the data show and data repeat attributes, when those are enabled. So I have my basic instrument class for this data repeat. I have the instrument class.sector, instrument class.sector.holding. It does this automatically. Let me disable all of the scripts that do the output, that actually change the data, and show you right here, I have beautiful HTML that's all ready. There's nothing more to be done. No manual duplication, etc. Now, if I enable these scripts back, we can see that they are affecting the proper data. And if I open the first one, that is simply a standard output of tables. It's just grabbing the description and putting it in. Where it gets a little more complicated is the idea of the second level. So as you can see, we sort of need to do a little bit of processing to get the actual levels. There's a new selector, by the way, for these scripts, and you can see it's just tagging that data repeat. So instrument class.sector. It's looping on all of those super easily, but of course we do have some calculations to do. Now the file, the data mapper configuration, as well as the template are available if you're looking on the Learn website. Take a look on your left. You should have the links available. If you're viewing this on YouTube, it's in the description below so that you can download and study this very nice new simplification of the template nested table processing. Now, this is it for the What's New in 1.7 Designer. The next video talks about the output module, so let's go right ahead and see you in a few clicks.